No one have any too terrible hot takes. Otherwise, we'll blame you. So if everyone can just go ahead and open RStudio real quick, you should see something like this. This right here is the console. You can just type whatever, do the classic print.
Did you guys download this in the last meeting?
No, we sent an email. We sent an email telling you how to download it, and we sent a link in the group me.
Okay.
Have it downloaded, it's fine. You can just follow along or watch the recording, and then when you download it, you can go for it. So right here, this is the console. Yeah, there's the link to download it, and just in the chat. Yeah, this is the console right now. You can do simple things. You can print out things with the print statement. Just make sure to put apostrophes or quotation marks. Eat skeet just prints it out. You can do basic math operations, 8 plus 9, 9 plus 47, 47 times 2 divided by 6, and so on and so forth. Anything you expect a basic programming language to be able to do. But for our purposes, we want to do some more things working with data sets, working with big data sets, in particular for our purposes, play-by-play data. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to File up in the upper left-hand corner underneath the blue R and go down to New Project. New Project, we're just going to, I don't know what any of this means. For our purposes, we don't really need to. So we go New Directory, New Project, name it whatever you want. I'll call this MFANS and create project. So what this does is this just makes a project file. So all the plots you make, all the scripts, which we'll get into very shortly, all the objects that you save, they all go in this one file, and you can specify where. But usually, if you're on Windows, it's under it's in Documents. I don't know where it is for Mac users, but that's where it is in Windows. So from here, same thing as earlier. We have the console where we can just type little spurts of code. In here, we have the global environment. So when you make a variable, so let's say we want to make a variable X. In R, you can do equals whatever, but for whatever, and see, then it shows up in this global environment over here. But usually in R, we make this little arrow thing to assign variables. And that gets really annoying to type after a while. So a hotkey is Alt minus, and then it makes the arrow. Okay, but this is all really obnoxious. If you have a really long program you want to write, say, okay, let's say x is 4, and then we want to make x plus 8, but then we messed up, we want to change it again. And yeah, it's just really obnoxious to work like this for large scale projects. So what we do is we're going to make a script. So this little white box, I think it is, right here underneath File, you're going to click that, and then click the very first one, R script. That's primarily what we'll be working with. Don't worry about that. So since we are a football analytics club, we'll be working with football data. So, and R is, I don't think it's open source, but it's really easy to make packages that people can download. Packages are just sets of functions. Functions are things you tell, functions are things you tell the computer to do. So like, if you want to do like, I don't know, 4 plus 8. Also to run things in the console, it's Control plus Enter. Or if you want, you can press this run button right here. So if you want to do 4 plus 8 but 20 times with a different variable, you would make a function. So like a logarithm is a function, and you can program that into R. And packages are just sets of functions. So we will be for this purpose, we'll be working with four main packages: tidyverse, ggplot, ggimage, and nflfastR. I don't think any of you guys, or maybe Tej, but most of you guys shouldn't have any of those installed. So here's what we do. So we're going to type in install packages, this installs the packages. And you do an apostrophe, and then you type in the name of the package. So we're going to do nflfastR. We can just copy and paste that. Tidyverse. ggplot. And ggimage, or ggrepel rather. So what are each of these? nflfastR. This is the open source free public play-by-play data. We'll see what the spreadsheets look like that you get from them. But this has all of the NFL data. Tidyverse. This is actually a couple packages together. It just has some really nice tools that you can use to manipulate the ggplot. This is a fantastic way just to make graphs and different graphics. Really easy to use. We might not get super in-depth into this here. We might probably have another presentation for DataViz later. But we'll cover a little bit now. And ggrepel, this is when you have text in your plots. It just moves it away from the point so you can actually read the text.
Hey Connor.
So,
would you mind if you could just copy paste those into the chat? I can't really tell some of the characters.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
No problem. Yeah, if you guys want me to throw anything in chat, just say so. And so if this is your first time running it, which for most of you it probably is, you're going to run all of these. So either you do Control-Enter 4 times, or you can highlight all of them, hit Control-Enter, or the Run button up here. I already have all of these installed, so I'm not going to worry about it. And it shouldn't take very long. Oh, here, I'll keep it up there. And so I'll give you guys a second to do that. I'll prepare this while that's installing rather. No, I can't. Oh, it's ggplot2 actually. Mess that up. Yeah, I threw that in the chat as well. Here, actually, we'll install ggimage too. ggimage is like ggrepel, as in it helps you make graphs, except the only difference is it lets you put pictures in the graphs. So that means we can put logos as our points in our graphs, which is always helpful. I'll throw that in the chat as well. So when all that's done installing, can you guys put in the chat so I know when to move on? And while you guys are doing that, I'll just get some things set up. I'll explain this in a sec. So have those installed for everyone yet?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I guess we'll just we'll move along then. So after you install them, what we want to do is we want to load them in. So we load in packages with the library function. So we just go over these and we'll do Control Enter a couple times, or we can do the run. You will get, so as you can see down here in the console, everything you do, even if it's in the script, will go through the console. So it'll run this line and give you whatever and move along. You will get some warning messages. For our purposes, we don't have to worry about that. There's only really a couple times you have to worry about it, but for these purposes, just, hey, you need to update R, but you shouldn't ever update R because that breaks everything. So yeah, so no concern here. Yes, and after we have them loaded in, obviously the data we want is the play-by-play data. That's what we build everything off of. That's how we build models. That's just how we see what happens in the games. Because as analytics people, we are contractually obligated to never watch a game of football ever. A little joke from you to me. So this is how we. So this is using nflfastR, the easiest way to load in data. We just read it right in from a URL from this one guy's GitHub. This is a very long line of code. You guys aren't going to be able to read it, so I'm just going to throw it in the chat really quick. And if you see this RDS, this .rds, that's just an R object. That's not a big deal. So now we'll do Control Enter and run that line. And now we have data from every single play running the 2020 NFL season, just like that in one line of code, which I think is pretty cool. So we have this data. Basically, we have a big grid of the data, and it has all this. And each column, so each row is a different observation. Each row is a different play. Each column is a different type of data about that play. Right now, we don't know what's in it. We just loaded it in. We have this variable that's attached to it called PVP, play-by-play. We don't know what's in it. We should probably know what's in it. So to do that, we're going to go. We can either do it right here. I like to do this down in the console. So at this bottom line, we just type PVP, press enter, and ta-da, now we see what it looks like. And there's lots and lots and lots of columns here. But here we see the general structure of it. You have a play ID, a game ID, different version of the game ID, who's home, who's away, if it's the regular postseason, the week, who has the ball, possession team, whether they're home or away, and so on and so forth. You guys can go through this a little more in depth. But obviously, we're excluding 8,752 rows. So about 8,000 plays. That's fine. But also, all of this, these are all the columns that R just did not include. So we'll want to see all those. If we can look over here for a second, we can see that this is a 25 megabit variable. So it's a pretty big variable. We don't want to look at all of it, but we want to see what the different columns are. So what we can do is we can do view. I also like to do this in the console, but you can do it in the script. Actually, let's do it in the script. So what we can do is we can do view, and we just do PVP. This will show us the entire grid of all 9,000 plays. That's a lot. We're not going to need to look at all of that. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to look at head. So what head does, head just shows you the top couple rows. For us, it'll be the top 10 rows. Tail is the bottom 10 rows. So here, I'll show you. So if we do view, head, PVP, up here, it opens it in another tab. And now we can see all of the data. All of the data. All of the data, all 340 columns. And that's quite a bit. So we're not going to go through all of that. But again, the important part with head is that it's the first couple columns. It's the first couple rows. The first couple plays of the San Fran, Arizona game. And if we want to view the last couple plays, couldn't find function view. Where? That's weird. Wait, let me see what package that's in. Did you run library tidyverse, Tyler?
Yeah, I did. I'll try it again.
Yeah, it should just be in there. That's weird. But just to show I was talking about with tail,
Yeah, it didn't work again.
didn't work again? That's really odd. Did you install tidyverse? Install that?
Yeah.
Is anyone else having this issue, or is this just Tyler?
It's working fine for me.
Okay. Alex, Ben, John, are you guys having issues?
What exactly was the issue?
I'm still trying to download our studio. I'm having trouble, but I'll figure it out.
Oh, okay, that's fine, Alex. You just can take a back seat for a little bit.
So when we did library tidyverse, it says error package or namespace load failed for tidyverse.
Oh, did you try running the install.packages line again? Good. So that means it's having an issue loading it in.
You could try highlighting all your install packages and all your libraries that you have typed out and just running that all together, and then everything should be up to date.
Yeah.
All library and install at once.
Yeah.
So you would just highlight it all and then click run.
Yeah. And I'll click run or control plus enter on your keyboard.
Okay.
Okay, so while Tyler's doing that, we'll move on a little bit. Okay, so we have all of this data, but this is way too much to possibly do anything with without knowing what we want to look at. So let's just pick something to look at. Let's say we want to look at, let's say we want to group something together, right? So we want to look at something every team does, how every team stacks against each other. Let's say we want to look at every team's yards per play, right? That seems pretty simple. So how do we do that? How do we even look at one specific row? Well, if we just want to see what that column rather, well, what if we just want to see what that specific column looks like? So we want to see how many yards a team gains on average per play. We're gonna look at the yards gained column. Pretty self-explanatory. So we just want to look at that specific column. We use $sign. A $sign looks at specific columns in the data set. These are called vectors. So I'm sure you guys all know what vectors are from math or physics. They're just arrows, but the more complete definition for math is that it's a column of values, a little linear algebra. Basically, a column is a vector in R. So we want to look at yards gained, or you can just type it in here, or you can go through this little thing. This is all the columns in it, by the way. So yards gained, run that line, and there it is. So we have NA. NA means not available, so that's just a missing value. That could be a play that just says game start, kickoff, whatever. Excuse me. And yeah. So that's for all so this is every play, however long. So we will look at the yards gained per play for every team. So we need to think about this. Okay, so that's the average amount of yards an offense gains. So we want to look at every offense. Well, how do we do that? Do we have to say, oh, so let's look at this data set when the Cardinals have the ball, when the Titans have the ball, when the Vikings, when the Panthers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? We could do that. That sounds terrible. Luckily, R has a better way to do this. So what we can do, so we'll make a new variable. We'll call this offenses. We'll do alt minus, do the little arrow. So what we can do, so with tidyverse, we can do this special little thing. It's called a pipe. So you do Control Shift M, and it makes this little guy. You can think of this little guy as then. So what we do is we load in PVP. So we load in all the play-by-play data, and then you do something. One of the often things we can do is we can do So let's go with the idea of, oh, we want to see when the Cardinals have the ball, when the Vikings have the ball, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we can use this filter function. Pretty self-explanatory. So after you load in data frame, the grid, you say, okay, filter. So in one specific column, pause team. So this is the possession team. So the team who has the ball. So we want to look at, okay, what does it look like when the Cardinals have the ball? So we're going to do equals. That just means is. Equals, and this is called this is a logical statement. So when position team equals Arizona, because as we look at the PvP, see, so possession team, Arizona. So when the Cardinals are when ARI is the possession team. So when the Cardinals have the ball. This right here is called a logical statement. Equals means equal for computers because they're dumb and they can't differentiate between when just equals. So we run this. Okay, now we want to see what it looks like. So we type in offenses into the console. So now we have a lot less plays, about 272. But if we look at it, all the possession teams are just the Cardinals. So what filter does is says, okay, take one data frame and give me another data frame based on a condition. So the condition we're looking at is we only look at it when the team is the Cardinals. And I mean, we could hypothetically do this for all of the offenses and just have like a Cardinals, a Vikings, and so on and so forth. But again, that kind of sucks. So we're not going to do that. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to do this function called GroupBy. So what GroupBy does is it lets us look at all the unique values in a vector and group the data frame based on those unique values. That sounds like a lot. So what does that mean? Okay, so let's say, so we want to look at every offense, right? So there is 32 unique values in the possession team vector. And we want to look at averages based on that specific value. So what we can do is we can say, okay, we group by pause team. So that means, okay, so we have 8,000 plays and 32 team, and there's 32 unique values in the possession team. So we want to look at it for each case. Basically what GroupBy does is with whatever columns you specify, and it's like, okay, instead of doing with PvP filter Cardinals, PvP filter Vikings, filter Titans, filter, it just does that for you and puts it into one thing. Extremely useful. One of the reasons I like R so much. That's one of them, one of the two, really. So now, okay, cool. They're just together. But if we run this really quick, it doesn't actually look like anything. If I can spell. Offenses. I mean, it looks exactly the same as the earlier data set. And nothing's really changed. You just grouped it together, but then didn't do anything with it. That's not really helpful. So what we want to do is, since we want to look at the yards per play of every offense, we want to summarize. Or you can do Z. I don't know. Brits made this. Go America. So when summarize, that means we want to, so summarize says, okay, we have this data frame and it's grouped by every unique value in a given column or several columns. So summarize says, okay, let's summarize across that grouping. So we want to look at the average yard. If we look at the yards per play, we can specify a new value, yards per play. We'll look at the average. So we'll do mean average yards gained. NA. Okay, so what this little guy means, this NA.rm equals T. So R is very annoying when you have missing values. It freaks out. It doesn't know what to do. So this little this argument, the thing inside the function, inside the mean function, this means remove NA values, and you set it equal to T. That means it just looks at the NA and goes, nope, and just skips right past it. So we don't have to worry about them. So what this does now is we're going to summarize some value or values across one given grouping. So in this case, we're looking at the all of 2020's plays. We're going to group them by the offense. And then we're going to summarize the offense by looking at the average yards gained, and that'll give us the yards per play. So we run this really quick, and then we look at it down here. So we have each offense and their yards per play. Okay, so we have the Cardinals with 4.48 yards per play, the Ravens with 4.56, the Bills with 5.17, the Bengals with 3.28. So yeah, pretty good. Now, there are some caveats specifically with the nflfastR data. One, these do include special teams plays. We want to ignore those, so we're going to throw a quick filter in here. Filter special equals 0. Then we're going to throw another pipe in there. So what we're doing is first we're taking the play-by-play data, we're loading in the play-by-play data, then we're filtering out special teams plays, and then we're grouping by the offense, and then we're summarizing each grouping by looking at the average yards per play. So we run that again, and the numbers should be slightly different, I think, or that might have just been useless. Yeah, so as we can see, the numbers are slightly different. So here it says the Bills have 6.11 yards per play. Here it says they have 5.17, so about a yard difference. Not super significant. And I'm pretty sure special teams, that just takes out punts and stuff. And penalties, maybe. We'll pick it down. But as you can see, this is all out of order. Yeah, we can see what the Falcons and the Cardinals and the Panthers have in alphabetical order, but usually we're not worried about how each team does alphabetically. We want to see who's the best, who's the worst. So we want to arrange this data. So how do we do that? Well, R has another special function called arrange. We just do arrange. We have to specify the column that we're arranging on. So now we're going to arrange all the data according to this. And if we look at it again, we have team NA. Yeah, and we can filter out that as well, because that's an error that happens sometimes. So filter out special teams play and official. We look at when the offense is not, exclamation points mean not in programming, not NA. Run that again, and we look at it. We're not going to do that, actually. Offenses. So here. So now we have the bottom couple teams. So Bengals are bad, the Eagles are bad, Jets, football team, Broncos, everyone you'd expect. Sorry, Lions fans, they're bad. But what if we want to see the best teams? This is pretty depressing. I want to see good teams. I like good football. Arrange defaults from going low to high. So we want to go from high to low. We want to go in descending order. And to do that, all we have to do is put parentheses around this guy. Oh, what I just did there, if you highlight something and hit above your 9 key, the open parenthesis, it'll throw parentheses around that whole thing in RStudio. It's very nice. So we throw in desk. That just means descending. What it'll do is now we'll go from high to low. So we type in offenses into the console again. Now we have the best teams in terms of yard per play. Packers, Rams, Bills, Cowboys, Patriots, Seahawks. Vikings surprisingly have a good offense that may or may not be inflated by last week's game. So yeah. So is everyone following? Am I going too fast? Is there any issues here?
Nah, makes sense.
Does anyone have any questions as to what these do? Not necessarily how these work, but what they do. Okay, we're good? Okay, great. Okay, well, so this is good and all, but what if we want to look at, what if we want to add another column? What then? What if we want to know whether or not the team is super cool? We want to add another column, so okay, here's the yards per play, or here. Yeah, so what if we want to know if the team is above average or not? I mean, we can go through this. We can pick out the 16th team and then go above that or below that. But that's really tedious. What if we just want to add another column that's a 1 if the team is above average in terms of yards per play, or a 0 if the team is below average? Well, we can add another column using mutate. Mutate is a very fun name for it, I think, for what it is. All mutate does is it just adds another column. We can just say, oh, this can just be one value, like, oh, is this a football team? And then we look at it. Oh, cool. They're all a football team. Great. Super useful, Connor. Might seem confusing first post. Yep, Tasia's right, per usual. So look, oh, good. Now we know all of these are a football team. Great. But what if we want to know if they're above average or not? So to add another column, we just do comma, enter. You can also add multiple columns and summarize too. So now we want to know if they are above average. Okay, so now let's think about this. What does this mean? So we want to know if a team has a value above a certain threshold. So if they have an above average offense, so if their yards per play is above the mean yards per play for the league, we want a 1. And if they're not, we want a 0. So how can we do this? Well, we can throw in if else. So a conditional statement. So as we can see up here, so it takes in 3 arguments. So an argument is a thing for a column. So the first one, we take the condition. So here we want to know if yards per play is greater than mean yards per play. What this means is, okay, for a specific row, is this yards per play greater than the average yards per play for the whole column, right? And then if it is, we want 1 to indicate that it is, and if it's not, we want a 0 to indicate that it is in fact not. We run that really quick. We look at offenses. Here, actually, we'll look at the bottom of the offenses. Okay, so here with the top, so we have the top 10 teams right here. So we know their exact yards per play. We know if they are a football team, and we know if they are above average. All of the 10 teams are above average. Phenomenal. So now we want to look at the bottom of it, just to make sure, just to check our work, just to make sure we did everything right, because I mess up all the time. I don't know what I'm doing. Don't trust me. Kidding, kind of. I know the basic stuff. So now we want to see, okay, are all the bottoms 0? And ta-da, they are. And even NA is a football team. We'll let them dream. They're the Kenyan Lords, I guess. Okay, so cool. So now we have a good bit of information. So we have each team, their yards per play, whether or not they are a football team, and if they are above average or not. This is a pretty good start for what information we want on the team. Now, but what if we want to look at defenses? Of course, there's 2 main parts of football. We want them about their defenses. Well, we can just do the same thing. We can load in the play-by-play data, filter out to the special teams place. We can group them by, this time, defensive team. So that's just def team. And we can summarize on yards allowed. Z because America. Yards allowed per play. Yards gained. NA.rm equals T. And we'll arrange it in and we'll arrange it. But remember, for defense, since a low yards per play is good, we're just gonna do a range. So we want to go from low to high, not high to low. If I can get my hand right. And for the same idea, we'll see if they are in fact a football team. Football team equals 1. And we'll see if they are above average. And I'll just specify that's defense here. Equals if else. Or less than, because again, small is good for defense. 1, 0. We look at defenses. You see all the top defenses. NA, which is annoying. We'll have to figure out how to filter it out later. The Colts have the #1 defense in yards per play with 4.04. The Bucks, surprisingly, I didn't know that. Really, the Eagles. This is actually surprising. I hadn't done this exercise before. I did this. Okay, and if we look at the worst defenses, the PV poo-poo defenses, and Seahawks, Raiders, Dolphins, Titans, all at the very bottom. Okay, so this is great. So for each team, we have offenses, which gives us information about their offense, and we have defenses, information about their defenses. Well, what if we want to do both? Well, if we want to look at that together in one data frame. It would be awkward to do. We can try and group by. We can try and group by off. Here, actually, let's try that. Let's just do teams, PVP, filter, type. We can try to group by 2 things: pos team, def team. And, so what do you guys think will happen here? Do you think we'll get? What am I asking? Okay, so there's 2 things that could happen here. We'll get every team's offense and every team's defense, or if we're thinking about group by, something else might happen. We'll just do. Okay. Okay, and let's just look at the yards per play again. Summarize. Yards per play equals mean yards gained. Okay. And here, let's just for a quick look, see what happens. So we run into a bit of an issue. So we don't get every team's offense and defense. We get every team's offense against the defenses they've played, which is good information. That is good to know. You would want to know that the Cardinals were better against the Lions than they were against the 49ers, or that the Ravens were way better against the Texans and Browns than they were against the Chiefs. That's all great information to know. We don't give a shit about that right now, frankly. When I read that, everything says, no, that. Yeah, so Tyler, just watch back the recording, and that should help. You should actually click yes on that, but that'll end your pro. Just rewatch the recording. Okay, so this is good information to know. You just don't care about it right now. So we look back at what we have up here. So we have offensive information and defensive information. Now we look at, we notice something interesting. So the offenses and defenses have the same information, just the abbreviation for the team. So what if there's a way that we could actually just smush these together, and look at just the, just say, okay, the values. So we say, okay, so this row is Packers And another row is, or what's one that has in common? Whatever. So we have the Packers column here, and we have the Packers column, we have the Packers row here, and the Packers row somewhere else. We want to say, okay, so we have rows for defensive Packers and rows for offensive Packers. What if we just say, hey, this one has Packers, this one has Packers, let's just smush them together. Luckily, R has a way to do that. And there's a couple ways to do it, which we might cover later. But the big one is merge. All merge does is it smushes the data frames together based on a key column. Okay, so we actually don't want to load in PvP here. So we're going to pick the first data frame, the first grid. So offenses, then defenses. Now, the issue we have here is that the first columns have different names. This has the possession team. This has the defensive team. So if we just tell it to do it like this, it should throw us an error. Oh no, it doesn't. It doesn't work like we planned to. Yeah, so this does not work like it planned to, obviously, because we actually do have a column together. It's football team. So you're just going to see, oh, these both have a football team column, so we'll smush together on that. And this doesn't give us anything we want. So we have to specify which column that we wanted to actually merge on. So we'll do by equals so we have to specify which column we want each data frame to merge by. And this, okay, so the first one here is the X column. So we want to pick out the possession team. So pos team. And here the Y is the second one, so defenses. So def team. So what this line of code is doing is it's saying, okay, so in the offensive data frame, we want to look at the possession team column, and in the defensive frame, we want to look at the def team column and smush them together based on the values in those columns. Now, if we look at it, I messed it up. Phenomenal. No, wait, no, I did it right. So we do have some issues. So here, so we have the team, kept the name possession team. We have the yards per play. So we have the yards per play. This refers to their offensive yard per plays, 5.27. Then if they are a football team, if they have an above average offense, their yards allowed per play, if they are a football team, and the above average defense. So we have some redundant data here. Namely, are they a football team? Also, we don't care about this data. So we want to take those, so we can take those columns and throw them out. So how do we do that? So what we can do, we can actually do another function called select. Lets us to select the rows we want or take out the rows that we don't want. So how do we take out the columns we don't want? So we do select minus football team X. So this guy, and minus football team.y. And so now, if we look at it, now we don't have those columns anymore. Now, if we take out these minuses, the opposite thing will happen, and we'll just have every team and whether or not they're a football team, which, not super helpful. So there we go. So we have the data we want. We have their offensive and defensive yards per play. What now? I mean, we could just make this a table. We could just make our console a little bigger, take a screenshot of this, chop off this guy, and post it on Twitter and say, hey, look at this. Super cool. This has a different issue, though. It's boring as hell. My eyes just glaze over when I see tables, And when I see lots of values that are really close together on a table together, that's really annoying. So we're going to make a graph. Easiest way to get clout on anything is just make graphs. So how do we do that in R? Luckily, it's really easy with the ggplot. And this might serve as an introduction to our next meeting. If we don't want to do Python next meeting, if we want to just do data viz, this will serve as an intro to that. So what we do is we do ggplot data. So we have to specify what data frame do we want to make this plot out of. And we want to make it out of teams. And then to go to the next line, you don't do a pipe, you do a plus. Now, so in ggplot2, there's these things called geoms. There's all these different options of different kinds of plots you can make. You can make a box plot, you can make columns, you can make a curve, a density curve, 2D density curves, emojis, all these different GG image. We'll cover that at a later date. So you have all these Pokemon. I actually don't know what this is, but sick. So you have all these different options to make different plots. And you can layer them on top of each other. So you can make a bar graph with points on it and a line. And there's different things you can do with that. For starters, we're just going to keep it really simple. We're going to make a scatter plot. So geom point. This will give us points. You do mapping. And inside here, you do mapping equals aesthetic. Excuse me. And now we have to specify which columns we want to use in that, which columns we want to make the X, which columns we want to make the Y. So for these purposes, we'll just say X equals the offense. So we'll do yards per play. And the Y-axis will be the yards allowed per play. Now we'll just run this. And if we look over here, so we do have that issue with NA, but here are all the teams. So here, let's actually fix that NA issue. Okay, so filter, pause team. So we'll do not is NA. Let's see. Just make sure that worked. Yep. Now if we look, ta-da! So what this line does is this says, okay, in this column, we're going to see if anything is an NA value. And if it's not, with the exclamation point, we keep it. That's just a quick explanation for that. So ta-da, now we have this guy. So it's a scatter plot of all the teams, their offensive yards per play on the x-axis, and defensive yards per play on the y-axis. A couple issues with this. One, we don't know which team is which. We don't really have a good sense for what average is. So we can address a couple of those next time. But really quickly, if we just want to see, okay, well, which team is which, we can worry about the averages and making it look all pretty and nice. And we also, we want a title for it, so we know what the hell we're looking at. So we're actually going to make this from geom point to geom text. We're going to add another argument into the aesthetics label. We're just going to make it positive. So what geom text does is the same as geom point, except at the point it puts a certain string that you specify. We're going to specify the string as possession team. So that's just each team. We run that. And crap. Wait, give me a second. Things are. And ta-da! See, now we have all the different teams. Here are the Packers. There's the Titans. It's really, it's a lot nicer than a previous graph because now we know where the different teams are. If we want to add a title and label the x-axis ourselves, do labs, title equals yards per play by team, xlab for the x-axis, offense, yards per play. YLab equals defense yards per play. And we always want to say where we get our data from and who made it. So we add a caption equals by whoever, whomsoever, and add a little bar and data from at NFL, for just from nflfastR. nflfastR. Now, ta-da! Now we have a nice title. I messed up the axes, but we also have a little caption. Actually, want to fix these axes really quick. We can just do a plus xlab. Because we're running short on time, just offense and ylab defense. And there we go. So that's our first very basic plot. So what did we talk about today? We talked about how to install packages into R, how to load packages into R, how to load play-by-play data with nflfastR, how to look at that data, how to look at the top of it and the tail of it, how to look at a specific column, how to use the pipe, how to filter it based on conditions, how to group it, how to manipulate it a little bit, and then how to merge data frames, which is huge, and then how to make a very basic plot. So yeah, hopefully I didn't go too fast. This is recorded, so we will upload it at a later point. So yeah, that should be good. That's kind of a lot. Any questions, any comments? I know we only have a couple minutes left, but.
Yeah, I'll say something here. Yeah, that was really cool, Connor. I hope everyone was able to pick up on everything. And if you guys if you're just playing around on nflfastR and you make a graph that you think is pretty cool or something new, just send it to me and put your name in the caption. I'll tweet it out on the MFANS Twitter account. Because that way you'll be exposed to almost 200 followers and stuff like that. So I'm excited to see what you guys put together.
Yeah. Anyone got anything else? Any questions, comments, concerns? And I'll retweet the graph so more like 550 people will see it as well. So yeah.
This isn't as much about the programming, but does the NCAA release any data sets like the NFL does?
Yeah, so there's actually a different R package that I use a lot called CFB Scrape R.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. It's a little different to install, but
all right. Yeah.
You can just shoot me a DM if you want to know how to do that.
All right, cool.
All right. And that's all. You guys are free to go. Thanks for coming. Thanks for showing out. Hopefully you found this useful, and good luck on your own analyses. And you need help, DM any of us, say in the group me, Google is your friend. Yeah. Thanks for coming out.
All right, thank you.